Okay, calling to order the Joint Committee on Ways and Means and Economic Development and Tourism. So this morning, we're going to hear from the Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, who will present their supplemental budget requests. Good morning.
Good morning, Good morning, Chair Dela Cruz, Vice Chair Moriwaki, Chair DeCoit, and Vice Chair Wakai. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Per the request, we will go straight to table 6.
No, unless you guys have these accomplishments.
This is long. Well, that is whatever you want, Chair.
No,
Whatever you.
I mean, just you can quickly go over them.
Okay, then I will.
We let the AG go over her accomplishments. She was the only one so far that started with that.
Okay,
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 so
so,
we'll skip the part that I talk and.
Let's go straight to accomplishments and then we can go table 6.
okay, we'll cover that if I could get, some time to kind of talk about not only the accomplishments, but what we're working on, which kind of shows our plan, where we're at and where we're headed. So I'll definitely skip through a lot because we're entering year 4 of the first term. And the first 2 years, what we talked about was moving the needle. And that strategic framework was based on looking at past reports, past studies, in addition to incorporating some of the studies and reports that were done during our first 3 years here, such as HCR 184, where we had to survey the creative industries division, mainly the fashion industry, SR 111, accompanied by Act 239, which was the interagency food systems, and then Act 187, which was the integrated land use strategy. So there are 3 major factors that stagnate economic diversification. 1, business costs. How do we reduce costs for business? No matter if it's the film industry, value-added product manufacturers, that's both food and non-food, even advanced manufacturing. Cost to do business. The workforce. DBED for these past 3 years, we've been in discussion as well as mapping out with DOE's workforce development, CTE programs, as well as the P20 team. And how do we align that? It's not just about the workforce and CTE, but making sure that as they graduate, that those students, those high school students, have trajectory into a career. And vice versa, with the industries, is there CTE alignment? Third is infrastructure. So this is turnkey facilities, shared facilities, open access facilities for our small to medium businesses. One of the biggest faults for our small to medium businesses not diversifying or scaling up is the lack of facilities and equipment. It's a valley of death. To do that, DBED focuses on 4 key areas.
You go to accomplishments.
Okay, straight to accomplishment. All right. Okay, so for just last year, Honolulu Community College has opened up the first state's advanced manufacturing facility. So we are partnering with HCC. And why this is key, we're currently discussing with 2 companies, as well as Department of Transportation, to look at Hilo Airport to bring in 2 aerospace companies. This is for horizontal and vertical horizontal lifts for satellite launches, drone launches, and other type of aerospace activities. There is no budget request in table 6 for this because what is needed is a hangar facility. We haven't been speaking to House and Senate members. We're looking at working with them on a spur bill as well as a CIP bill to ask for funding to go to DOT for a hangar facility. We're working with.
No, wait, go back.
Yep.
That was only one of the 4. Go back.
The advanced manufacturing.
Oh, I thought this was,
Yeah.
those 4 are not your, it was only one thing that you guys did.
Yeah,
out
so
of
no,
4.
we're going to keep going down.
Okay.
That's for advanced manufacturing. For healthcare and tech, we've started to work with legislators as well as the Cancer Research Center to start understanding the data and what's potential for healthcare and healthcare tourism. This includes translational drug development, early phase clinical trials, and data and AI and R&D. The facility there would be the UH Cancer Center.
So who's doing that?
We are working with HTDC and UH Cancer Research Center.
Okay, so the advanced manufacturing is which agency?
HTDC as well.
Okay.
Yep.
And
aerospace is with HTDC as well.
Okay, but I just want to be clear that HTDC had nothing to do with the construction of that facility.
No, but we did. When my first year at HTDC, we took a tour to Oak Ridge National for that program. We met with Oak Ridge National Lab, and the Navy was there in Navy, and as well as the College of Engineering, and they decided the facility to go at HCC.
Okay, I'm not clear as to what HTDC brings to the table.
We're bringing the companies here, but what's key is you need the workforce development and the equipment so they can help with the components for this equipment once these companies come here. This is all part of advanced manufacturing.
Okay.
This is the employment base. In addition is also the shipyard with the maritime.
So later on, HTDC, maybe they can do a PowerPoint, because I don't know what the pipeline and pathway is. So we have the facility, it's educational, but then what comes out of it? How many jobs? What kind of jobs are we talking about? Where are these jobs going to be? What programs in DOE? So that can be hopefully
Okay.
flushed out a lot more.
And okay, there is one bill that we have under the admin package for consideration for HTDC. There's no fiscal impact to the general fund. Current statute allows for grants under SBR just to go to certain SBR and STTR awards. We're asking if we can broaden the SBR or our grant process to go after other federal grants for aerospace and advanced manufacturing. We currently have dollars, but they require a non-state match, and we're limited right now just to SBR federal funds. For media, fashion, and music, we're working on a pathway that goes straight to global marketing and export. We recently executed a MOA with UHACM. We're working with Chancellor Penalosa on how we can utilize that facility for product development and film, as well as we're exploring what the AI curriculum is, as well as the equipment needs there. We have discussions with the Tree Initiative at HTDC, as
So
well as
which DBED agencies are involved in this?
this is HTDC and CID. And then we're working with DOE and their creative industries pathway and the School for Adults on the soft skills and the career foundations.
So later on, HTDC, maybe they can present a much more robust plan.
We'll put
Because
that
where are
together.
the shared facilities?
Okay.
What are the jobs?
So I mentioned earlier HCR 184. We did locate some additional funding from a prior year appropriation. This was just a rendering. It's not site specific yet, but this was proposed for the sandbox block. You see sandbox right here. HCR 184 pointed out that for our fashion and music industry, they need specialized equipment and open access facilities. We were looking at repurposing funds. However, we're also looking at other potential land, state land and private land available in the Eagle Lake Kapalama area, which will put it closer to Honolulu Community College in alignment with their fashion tech and melody music program.
Okay. How does this tie into the DBED report that we first saw on economic forecasts? Because your guys' economists talked about specific low-hanging fruit, but I don't see connection between what they present and how these agencies are pursuing those low-hanging fruits to diversify the economy.
Well, there's many different parallel tracks, as you can
So
imagine.
if you guys can go back and trace them, don't make up something off the cuff.
No, no.
I'd rather see something like in writing that says, this is what the research showed, because that's what we kind of were asking about. Where are the investments so that we can grow the economy? And if it can be specific to what your guys' economists had presented initially. Some of this does tie in, but it's not as it's not being communicated that it's very specific, strategic, and integrated as we would probably want to see.
Okay. We'll work on that. We'll get you that. So Reed does an emerging sector report every year. In that report, they list all the sectors to the state's economy. So tech and innovation, creative industries, and product development were one of 6 we narrowed down. Based off of Reed, we did ask who determined that these are our sectors. It's government through policy and through the funding. So low-hanging fruit that we picked up off of when we first got here were the healthcare and energy, which was already being done by the healthcare industry, like Healthcare Association Hawaii. We worked with workforce development. We ran a contract, an RFP out of business development support division. They just graduated a class, 25, 50 students, almost a quarter of their graduates are going straight to workforce. Aspirationally, we started pursuing aerospace with the resources that were given by the legislature. We got a position, as well as advanced manufacturing. So there are aspirational and low-hanging fruit within each three sectors. The low-hanging fruit in media was film, but also as we pursue towards AI and creative, we do need to make those investments into facilities.
Yeah, well, you know what would be good though is that we don't have any report from you guys that says if we make these investments, this is going to be the economic impact. This is the amount of jobs that can be created. We don't have the end game.
Okay, so for value add, let's take that for example.
No, I'm talking about the earlier one, like HTDCs with the advanced manufacturing facility at HCC.
No, but so even for the FPIN, we have to run additional questions out of the companies exiting out to get those numbers.
No, not necessarily. So like when we went to Australia, they said that they justified the facility because they showed economic studies that showed food manufacturing will improve the economy. So that's the study that I want.
Okay.
So you're talking about after the fact, what's the real data?
The ROI.
What I'm asking for is when you create a business plan, you have to show us, our studies show that if we invest in this, these are going to be the impacts.
Okay. Okay, so proof of concept is done for the manufacturing facility, which ADC is leading.
No, DBED had one.
We also pulled in our commodity coordinator that we got just last session to do mapping. We have a list of about 11 commodities, 8 more were requested to CTAR and Department of Ag and Biosecurity.
I'm not sure. Did you guys watch the economic forecast?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so the second your heroes report showed construction, and so you're talking about shared facilities and all. Okay, that's all construction. Value added, and I'm not sure how it's you mentioned fashion, but on the advanced manufacturing, I didn't hear too much about export, but your heroes report shows that trade is a low-hanging fruit for us. So the more manufacturing, the more production of goods, that should be part of trade. So I just want to see at some point some alignment of the economic forecasting and then how all of this fits into low-hanging fruit.
Okay.
Yeah, and obviously the the value added center in Wahiawa.
Yeah, because that you can if you end up categorizing them in these construction, trade, finance, real estate, manufacturing, that's where your hero is saying the growth can be other than tourism.
So when we did look at manufacturing trade, it's not that detailed. We're trying to go deeper into the specific sectors or industries we're targeting now. And these might all fall under manufacturing. They all might fall under trade.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is that you could end up putting some kind of marking on each one that follows one of these 4.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Chair. And as you know, you folks know, some of the initiatives that we have done came from this body and, the legislature, and we've, fulfilled the obligation that you folks gave us, which are good things like the Value Add Center, like the Culinary Institute of the Pacific. These are all great things that have happened since, we've been at DBED, and it came from you guys. And we understand that the legislature is our bank, and if that's the will of the legislature to go in this direction, with whether it's aerospace or whatever the different sectors are, we have been very diligent about doing those projects that you guys have listed for us.
Yeah, I mean, but the more data we have, the more precise we can be, and the more impact we can have.
Yeah, so we asked all of the agencies to put together 3 of the top things, and we put it in a video and we'll send it to you folks so that you can see it. And I don't know, it's we don't have the time to do that today, but we will send that to you, Chair, and the members of the committee.
Okay.
Okay, so we can shift back to table 6.
Yeah. Priority 1.
That's just a conversion. We're asking to go from revolving fund to a special fund. So I believe the MOF prior to that, I think that was a letter W. We're asking to shift to B. That's based off of it was the auditor report. there's no funding request there. We're just asking to change the MO, the means of financing.
Yeah. Okay, you know what? If you guys just for your own notes, it was your guys' PowerPoint on economic forecasting. It was page 15. So you talked about slower but positive growth with gradual rebound. So that shows there's potential. So if you have investment, then we can expedite, hopefully. And it talked about US economy proving more resilient. So instead of doing these trade shows in Japan or Korea or these other areas, focus on the US market because according to your data, that's where the strong economic growth is going to be.
19 companies just went late last week to the Fancy Fair food show. Local companies.
Yeah.
This past weekend.
Yeah, but if you guys can evaluate some of the other international trade shows to see if it makes more sense to redirect those dollars to the US economy.
So in those Japan trade shows, as you know, Chair, we sponsor the booth, but at least 20 companies go up and sell their wares. So the impact or the output for us is not huge, but it's a big impact for those businesses who do go.
Yeah, but oftentimes it's the same businesses. So if they've established a relationship, why does DBED have to subsidize it? I mean, a lot of these companies are the same companies going year after year. I think that's something that Senator Hashimoto had brought up. So it's not like we're bringing a lot of new companies in. Seems like we're bringing a lot more new companies in things like the fancy food show.
Yes, but we will get that information on the.
So, you know, government's role is to help, assist, but we cannot subsidize businesses. You know, we got to grow the economy. And then one thing, I'm sure you guys are including this, but one of your points was the AI productivity boom. And so hopefully a lot of the things at NELHA, HTDC, they got to figure out how to get into this boom. But this is, you know, according to your guys' data.
Short question on table 15 on BED.
Oh, wait, let them finish table 6 first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so on table 6, BED 115, Chair, the governor and others in the industry are focusing on sports tourism. So the governor is requesting an additional $3 million for sports tourism. At HTA last year, we implemented a new committee, the Sports Tourism Committee. And, you know, it is our intent to look at additional sporting events that we could market to. And we know that with the things changing in landscape of sports, college sports with NIL, we are in jeopardy of losing one of our big tournaments on Maui, the Maui Invitational, because tournaments in Las Vegas at the same time attracting the same teams are spending over $1 million to attract those teams. We cannot compete with that. So we need to look at how we can look at other venues or other tournaments that.
Yeah. So do you have a plan and a breakdown of the 3 million?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, can you send that to us?
Sure.
I have a question with regards to the sports and the golf. And only because the Big Island holds several. I understand is the senior tournaments that are held annually as well as Hawai'i, is that in danger?
Not this
that
year.
new.
The
Okay, because I
contract,
thought I saw an article that included some that the Hawaii Island and the Hawaii golf tournaments are in jeopardy.
yeah, the Aloha Swing is 3 tournaments, and it starts with the Century on Maui, which was this past weekend, and then the Sony this weekend. The Sony's contract ends at the end of this tournament. The Century contract ends in 2030. So whether the PGA Tour comes back to Century, that's still something that they have to negotiate. But our contract with Century goes to 2030. The Hualalai tournament, which is the Mitsubishi, I'm not sure on when that tournament is expired.
Well, it's very popular by.
Yes, yeah. I mean, if I'm gonna watch a tournament, because these are the guys that were, big when they were on the PGA Tour, and it's more relaxed, they're more engaging with the fans. So yes, it certainly is. And golf, as the committee knows, are some of the sports and recreations that attract the higher spend visitor. And we understand that. And I know that's the focus of DBED, HTA, and the legislature.
Thank you.
Chair.
Yeah.
So for the new sports, tourism committee, did you guys, put any money in it already? Or this is just your ask?
Well, we put in $500,000 from a different fund that,
What was that?
a destination management.
Okay, so you had a conversation that we had in Kauai.
So
You and
who is we?
Huh?
Who is we?
We,
Yeah, he said we put 5 million.
HTA and DBED.
No, who made that decision?
I did.
So not the board.
No. Well, but
don't even know this.
the board was made aware of it and the board was supportive of it, but now that it's advisory and not policy, we did talk to the chair and the vice chair of the
Yeah, but
committee.
the CEO reports to the governor, not the debate director.
We don't have we have a temporarily assigned.
Yeah, so do you have the statutory power to do that? I don't think so.
We can check, but
I don't think so. They're administratively attached to you.
okay. Well, we'll check and
But I just like a clarification because we had that conversation and I remember it, that he did bring that up to you, that it's not in the statute to divert money from one place to another. And then, like how you said, I know we had a bill to remove you from the HTA board, but it seems like you have a lot of influence and you've been at a lot of meetings and the CEO is not really answering to the governor, is actually answering to you. So I understand the CEO is temporary, Jimmy, but again, the reason why we had that bill was to take out DBED from the tourism board. That's not happening. So again, you made a decision to divert 500,000 from destination management. Right now, the program that was working within there is now on hold because of lack of funding that they had, that was having all these different hotels that was signing up to get the best tourists, tourist education, all of these programs, and now it's on hold because the funding that was diverted to the new agency was taken away from destination management. So the program is now, if you go on the website, CANHA, it's on hold for lack of funding.
How did you do that though? Because the destination management is under BED 116 and sports and signature events is BED 115. So you took 500,000 from 116 to 11 and you moved it to 115.
yes, yes.
Okay.
So
So that's not allowed either. Because
will-
there's no proviso that allows the administration to move monies from one program ID to another. That proviso was taken out years ago.
Okay, so I may be wrong on the number of the fund, but I know we understood.
Well, from destination management, if you look at destination management is program ID BED 116. Sports and signature events is program ID 115, which means that's two separate program IDs. And the administration doesn't have the authority to move monies from one program ID to another.
Okay, so let me go back and make sure we have the specific details on the transfer, but I can tell you that no money has been spent yet. The money has not been spent yet. So we didn't do anything yet, but the intention was to put money into sports tourism. That was the intent, but nothing has been spent yet.
But Chair, just clarification. So if you guys are governor and you guys decided that you guys wanted to create this new committee, sports tourism, the Hinohana program that you took the money from, CNHA, the destination management, is on hold. So if you guys didn't spend them,
So
if you guys didn't spend the money, then why take the money out of programs that was already established and people signing up, different hotels already was signing up for the program? So
I don't know what program center, I don't, which program are you talking about?
from CNHA, you guys took the money from destination management, right?
Well, Caroline just showed me the program that we took it from. So I will get, I think we did it the right way, but I want to make sure that we're doing it. I don't want to bring it on the fly. It is sports opportunity funding from BED 115, but I will get you all the details.
Okay, so that's not destination management. then.
No, then that's why I said, if I quoted it, if I stated it wrong, it's my fault.
Okay. You had a question?
Yeah, you mentioned the advisory committee. What exactly is advisory committee doing and how much are you folks informing them?
Well, the bill when it was passed, SB
Right?
1571, was specific and very clear of what the board could and could not do. And the one thing that the board was responsible for is hiring the president and the CEO. So the other things that the board did before, which was the budget and some of the other program stuff, they don't have
Right.
that oversight
Right.
anymore. So
What do they advise you on? I mean,
I can
because
give you an
I've got
example.
calls from board members, they're not clear of what they're doing. They think they're just window dressing now because they're not clear. Nothing is brought before them for their advice. Nothing is brought for their deliberation, whether they have a vote or not. The fact that they're advisory, what are they advising on?
So one example is the film committee. The chair of the film committee put together a proposal for a pop-up museum that the cost for that was 200 something thousand dollars. So their responsibility was to draft the proposal, load it to the administration at HTA, have the discussion with the program managers at HTA and decide whether that's what they were gonna support or not. And that one program was something that they were comfortable with. It went in front of the board. I'm not sure if they voted on it because it's advisory, but the advice went to the HTA administration and they're moving in that direction. There's another proposal that the
Okay.
chair put in to do funding for this film festival.
Could I stop you right there?
Sure.
Okay, I understand there are certain projects that they what, but when you say advisory, like on the sports tourism, is there anything that brought to them like, what's your advice or what do you guys think about this?
Yes.
You know, other kinds of stuff because they're saying that nothing's being brought before them.
So you brought the $3 million proposal to them?
Not yet.
Oh.
We just got this. I mean, the governor put it in his budget when he sent it down.
Yeah, but you transferred the money already,
Not on the 3 million, no.
The 500,000.
the 500,000.
Yes,
And so they know about the 500,000.
yes. The committee of the sports tourism
And the
knows
500,000 is supposed to be for what?
for things that they would discuss on whether it's, okay. I'll
I
give you an
want to know what you want to spend it
Oh,
on before you
absolutely,
transfer.
but if you're asking me if they have input, they come up with suggestions on what we would promote or use that money for.
Yeah.
And then it goes to HTA's.
No, but why wouldn't they do it like the Board of Education and the UH Regents, where they have to vote on the budget? They don't change the budget on the fly usually. Because what you're doing is, oh, here, I have 500,000. What do you guys want?
Yeah,
Versus as this budget is prepared, they should have been reviewing what the strategic plan is, how much it's going to cost. And then you guys can take that, review it, whatever. But it should initiate from them.
So if you look at how the request is made, it's left open to see which programs they think we should do. And I'll give you a perfect example. The Seattle Reign is a team from Seattle. It's a female soccer team, professional female soccer team. So they have come and they have met with the board and the administration at HTA to talk about coming to Hawaii to play their preseason games in Hawaii because Seattle, their preseason games will not be able to be played in Seattle because the World Cup is playing in all of the fields throughout the Northwest. So they want to come to Hawaii and it's going to cost, they're putting in a proposal for $1 million. And I told them that may be a little too rich for what we can do. So they're working out a proposal.
Why are you telling them that?
Well, I'm
It's
in
a-
the meeting.
Yeah, okay,
And we
but
don't
you're not
have-
on the advisory board and the CEO reports to the governor.
And
So
the-
why are you telling them that?
Because the governor, every single decision or every single discussion that I have at HDA, I float to the governor. I don't do it in a vacuum.
It should be the CEO that floats it to the
Well,
governor.
well,
That's what the statute says.
so the CEO interim, we don't have, you guys know, we don't have a CEO right now.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that's not what the law says.
Okay.
And the law says the governor, and so.
Yeah, and it says that the CEO reports directly to the governor. So a lot of these things should be from the CEO directly to the governor. It doesn't say through the DBED director.
So can I finish? So Caroline, do you advise or put things before this advisory? Who oversees it? So what kind of agenda items have they had on their meetings?
Thanks. Thank you for the question. So in the last couple of months, we've been working on our strategic plan. And so we invited the chair and vice chair of the Ho'okahua Hawai'i committee to sit in on the discussions on the strat plan as we
Okay,
develop it.
So
That's-
as a whole of the committee,
Mhm.
okay, you have how many members on there? 9, 10, 12? What is it?
12?
12 of them.
You told me-
No,
No, I'm
in
talking
the
about the
board.
advisory committee, not the
Advisory
committee of the
board.
committee, the overall committee. So there's an overall committee, have a meeting, and you present on this agenda item, we're gonna talk about the budget. On this agenda, we're gonna talk about this. We're gonna, and so you guys can review and advise. Do you
Mhm.
folks do that? Do
We've
you
been
have-
doing it by committee and then bringing it up to the advisory board.
Okay, can you submit to the committee these agenda items? Because the committee, the members are calling me and saying they're not sure what they're supposed to do. When they bring up something, they say, oh, that's not your area, or they're told to back down.
Mhm.
So I'm just curious, and maybe they should be, but it's not clear as to what they're supposed to be reviewing or not reviewing, or advising or not advising.
All right.
So, I
Mhm.
mean,
Happy to.
yes, okay, thank you.
Caroline, have you given the advisory any type of training?
Yes,
What their responsibilities are?
Mhm. We held an orientation with the advisory board members a couple of months ago.
So when you report, who do you report to?
So I serve at the pleasure of the governor, but governor has delegated to DEPA director the authority. So I report to Director Tokioka right now.
Has any of your board members talked to you directly that they don't understand what's going on?
No, they haven't.
Have you asked them if they understand what their task is?
No, I haven't.
Maybe you should ask each and every one of them if they understand what they're supposed to do.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Caroline, can I add another complexity to your vetting process, whether it's sports tourism or just any other kinds of marketing plans, that the private sector weigh in on all of these ideas? Like, so for example, if the female soccer team from Seattle wants to come here, rather than just arbitrarily saying $1 million is too rich, maybe 500,000, that you also take that out to the private sector to say, like, banks, hotels, private businesses in Hawaii, do you want to pony up to match whatever DBED is putting up? Because so many times I get the sense that we put up money, and if the private sector is not there to support us, maybe it's probably a bad investment on our part. So that all the contracts we look at, if there's not a private sector buy-in or an entity out there that's supporting DBED, maybe we shouldn't be making that investment in whatever the campaign might be. Do you guys do that?
So when proposals come in, we do run it through, I would say, a scorecard to see the potential of this investment. And yes, we do look at the community benefit and also, how does this affect
Wait,
our?
who is we?
business?
Is it just you?
No,
Who is we?
yeah. So we have a sports consultant, Playfly, who our sports manager works with to vet proposals. And we also work with Director Tokioka as well as the chair and vice chair of the sports committee to look at proposals as
So
well.
how does that process work? Everybody gets a vote and then there's a balance of an average for grade for this scorecard you're talking about, or?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know this, the scorecard exactly, all the components, but it does go through
Couldn't
this,
you?
our our sports manager, reviews it. And so he puts it, he works with a sports
But we need
consultant.
to articulate the process.
Yes, sorry, I don't know it off.
Needed.
Yeah, I'll provide you the information on how it's done, but it does go through
Okay.
a vetting system.
Because if you cannot articulate it, it comes across arbitrary
Okay,
or political.
got it.
So that scorecard in the future, can there be a criteria that there has to be some private sector buy-in, that the private sector has to put in money into all of your campaigns? Because if the private sector is going to just hands off on basketball, marketing to whatever, then it's probably not a good investment by the state.
Mm.
So is that, yes, you will put that into your scorecard?
Just
We'll-
change that
yeah,
law.
we'll look.
Just-
Let me look to see what is all the components of the scorecard, but I know that there is partnerships in there. And I will get back to this committee on it.
Thank you.
Who developed the scorecard?
Yeah, our consultant,
So you
Playfly.
had no, you just leave it up to a consultant.
So the consultant developed it, and I'm sure our staff weighed in on the components of the scorecard.
Can you give us a copy of the scorecard?
Yes.
Just a follow-up. Carolyn,
On sports, that's.
yeah, it's the reason why it's confusing and what Senator Kim was saying is because
No,
we
just
mix-
ask your question.
the
We-
question is,
Interpret any other members,
Yes.
just ask the question. Okay. Next,
So then, the next two line items are for Nelha. First one is we're requesting the establishment of one FTE for a cultural practitioner. Also to restore the salary of the unfunded admin assistant position. So currently,
Chair, are we still on table 7?
no, okay, so wait, your second, so what is the big, how did this come about?
okay, so Nelha's been pushing forward on a master plan. And as we're going through that process, there are a lot of cultural activity and questions being brought to the board as well as to the agency. So to help mediate this and help with the master plan, we're asking for a cultural practitioner on staff.
Okay, what's the master plan for?
The master plan is for the remaining underutilized plans of Host Park. We have additional lands that has no infrastructure, and we can't, unless we get infrastructure and facilities, we won't be able to monetize or create revenue for that Host Park.
Okay, are there vacancies at now?
There are, so, well, I go back and check, let me double check. I'll get back to you on that. But this is not asking for general fund, it's just, we're asking to use our existing.
Again.
Why they've been interested acted in.
One vacancy from 2 months ago is the account clerk, and we're in the process of recruiting for that.
Okay, next. Oh, now any questions on this one? Okay, next.
Okay, and then, the second one is the restore the funding for the admin assistant. The next one is BED 160. This is HHFDC. Currently, HHFDC is managing 2.4 billion in assets and loans. We're asking for capacity assistance by asking for a temporary assistant controller to help the chief financial officer. We're also mapping out additional what the strategy is for housing moving forward, 77,000 units statewide. And so we need capacity with HHFDC to help with the existing loan load.
Okay, and they don't have vacancies.
We do have a couple. I got Dean. Do we have any vacancies available or are they all under? recruitment? We have vacancies all under recruitment right now. 7 vacancies. 7 vacancies.
And how long have they been vacant?
Most of them not very long. I think the longest. The civil service position that's been about a year. So table,
But you guys have, wait, I gotta,
yeah, um,
oh, go ahead.
so they're showing from 2024 through 2025 are so just over a year, or two on a couple of the vacancies.
Okay. So Dean, did you start the 360 review that we talked about when we actually increased your ceiling so that you could give pay raises? Because you said before that you did no review of any staff. Annually. And you incorporate that as part of the review for raises? Well, you asked for the money for raises. That's why that was the whole point. And so, and you incorporate that as part of the review for the raises when you do give them? Okay, because, so how many years have you done that? Just the one? Okay, so before that, you guys had no evaluation. So DBED, your agencies, they don't give reviews. Somehow, hopefully, as you meet with all the different agencies, you have consistency on job reviews. I know that's one of the questions that someone had brought up at a previous hearing.
Yes, we hired a new human resources person a month ago, and that is part of it. And as you can see, Chair, when you look at the vacancy list, we took to heart your direction over the last 2 years on the number of vacancies that we have.
No, yeah. But you're asking for some new positions, but they still have vacancies.
Yes, and that was brought up when the request was made for the new positions. If every time there's a request for new positions, we ask the vacancy question.
Yeah.
And some can be transferred and some cannot, but we do ask the program managers if there are vacancies that they can trade transfer.
Okay, Senator Kim had brought up the fact that, she had questioned DCCA about HR specialist teleworking. And I noticed that HHFDC has a HR specialist that teleworks. So how is that, the whole point of HR is they have to be available to people. You have to be able to walk in, talk about HR issues, but yet yours, they telework.
This HR specialist works 2 days a week. It's in the office 2 days. So we can't hire nobody. In an office. But while she's working, she's still available by cell phone or work phone. She's available during.
Okay, and how do you track that? How do you track her workload and her productivity?
You see, come to work.
So you specifically make sure that because Attorney General does timesheets. What kind of process do you guys have? You just kind of just watch to see if you get emails from her or not. That's your only gauge.
Question, Chair.
Yeah.
So the vacancies, are we talking about civil service and exempt or all vacancies? We're talking about our civil service position.
Oh, they gotta speak in the mic.
Oh. I think,
You have a mix, you say.
Dean, come on.
Is that-
Chair, as he's coming up, I will, by a show of hands to the department managers, tell you that we spent a lot of time in meetings when we were going through the whole process of telework, that there had to be a standard and forms that filled out every single week if somebody's on telework, and they had to get approved from the department manager.
But
And this was for all of the departments, not only HHFDC.
Well, the concern I had in question is we're dealing with vacancies and they're both civil service and exempt positions. And another reason I ask is that in filling vacancies, I understand that the exempt positions are better and faster, easier to fill, because on the civil service positions, it takes almost half a year to get somebody in that
Yeah.
particular position.
Well, that's why
That's it.
that's why DHERD is asking for exam.
Okay, thank you. That's my question.
Anyway. Okay, what is this temporary assistant comptroller?
That's the one we
No,
just.
Did you want to talk to Dean about the human resources or problem? Because they asked him to come up to speak in the mic.
Did he answer your question?
More you want to talk about on the assistant controller or did I cover it?
No, she asked and then he stood up.
Yeah.
So as long as it's answered.
Any other further well, we
Okay.
spoke about the assistant controller earlier. I don't know if we do have further questions, Dean can.
160. And they cannot absorb that now with any of the positions.
Not in the 7.
No, not right now. All of our vacancies are under recruitment and are needed.
Yeah. You know, but you and I had this discussion. When you look at the output that HHFDC has had, a number of units,
Mhm.
and the amount of money you get, it's relatively flat, you know, over the last 20 years or whatever it was. When you look at your annual report, it's all about 732 or 34 units per year on average.
This
But
year,
that money has spiked up dramatically,
Yeah.
and
And
we
it
haven't
takes-
seen the doubling of the units you guys produce.
it takes some time before the money appropriated by the legislature results in units. So this year, for example, we delivered 1,460 units, which is a lot more than we have historically. And it's because of the infusions into RHRF that we can deliver more.
So
And-
300 more units, but way more money than that.
And well, costs have also risen, but you look at our pipeline, there's 10,800 units that we project delivering in the next 5 years.
Yeah, but you know how much money you have how much money do you have in DERF?
In DERF, available balance, roughly about $100 million.
You only have 100 million left. Is it just
Available-
spoken for
available
or?
now, yeah, the rest is spoken for.
Yeah, so how much total is in there currently?
I'd have to go back and look at the total DERF balance.
Okay, because you're the vice chair or the co-chair of TOD Council, and you guys haven't done anything to put in infrastructure or housing along the TOD.
Oh, we just approved a DERF loan for regional electrical infrastructure in Kaka'ako at last week Thursday's board
Okay,
meeting.
but you know what? Quite frankly, you know, no offense to my colleague, but over the last 50 years, we put millions of dollars into Kaka'ako, and there's more than one rail station. We're not only focusing on the rail station of Kaka'ako. So what is HHFDC Office of Planning doing so that we can make sure we develop out the rail line?
Yeah, and we are looking at supporting projects along the rail line now.
Looking at it doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Yeah, we have an active contract for the Iwilei Kapalama area with a consultant helping us identify improvements to.
The rail isn't even
Yeah.
there yet.
Mhm.
Okay, there's rail all the way from Benja Kalihi all the way to Kapolei. How many projects along any of those rail stations?
There are projects, I'm not sure the number though.
Can you provide a report on?
Yes,
what
we can,
is-
yes.
I mean, some of those stations have been around for a couple years now, and I haven't seen any activity.
And Chair, just to add the Kaka'ako Rail Station, that project on Nimitz that affects the downtown area, my understanding is that's going to take 5 years. So why are we down in that area? I agree with the chair. The TOD has been involved, the committee has been there for like 3 or 4 years. So, you know, Pearl City area needs some housing. No
Pearl City,
different than those
Waipahu.
beyond that.
Yes.
Yeah. You can just
Yes,
agree,
we
but
agree, we
nothing will
agree with
happen.
that. And
Yes. What are you guys doing about it? See, I keep telling you, just like how you micromanage HTA, micromanage them and get units out. You actually have a board seat on this one.
Sure.
Question.
Yeah, the question is, with Senator saying, so around the Kapolei, area, don't the state own most of the land in that area?
from the Kapolei area, yes, Wine Homelands, DAGs, and UH have sizable land holdings.
So exactly what he's saying. So how come we're not looking into trying to develop that area since a lot of it is, state land?
We have been talking to UH about developing their lands at UH West to
Where's the sense of urgency though? So you're saying you have all that money, some of it is spoken for, you have $100 million not spoken for. Okay, the fact that you actually have money, that much money unspoken for, when you have all these projects that have to happen along the rail line, what are you guys doing?
For the lands around UH, East Kapolei, those are under our control. All of our lands, we
You can use quite a bit, has quite a bit of flexibility. And if you need help, why don't you come back and say, can you guys buy these parcels? Or can we get money for land acquisition? Although some of your money can already do that.
Mhm. Yes, and we are looking at land acquisition. We have a broker on board. We have developers on board to help us evaluate properties.
They should have been doing that already. How long have you been co-chair of the TOD committee? Or how long has HHFDC been co-chair?
I believe since the inception of the committee.
Yeah, when is that? How long?
Over 5 years. I'm a member.
No, at least 10.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you don't want to say.
I'm not sure. It's
Yeah.
prior to my time at HHFDC.
Okay, so, but it's been a while and we haven't seen any progress.
Here, can I add, just because we're on the TOD, my understanding with rail, they decided they canceled the parking garage, the parking area. Was it Pearl City?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have the land area that was set aside. I went to the.
No, that's the city's land.
That's the city's land, but there are vacancies already, land acquisitions that you could already partner with. Because when you start accomplishing where you're going to put housing, you have to look at the mass area. Then you'll have to look at infrastructure and are we going to buy those businesses you're going to relocate? So.
Well, he's sitting on 100 million and actually he's sitting more than that. And so if you're not going to do anything with it, then we can take it.
We do have plans to use to fund.
Okay, why
projects
don't
this
you
year.
guys give us a list of how you're
Yes.
going to spend that total amount? Because if it's just sitting there, we're talking about putting hold on tax breaks.
Mhm.
And you're sitting on cash not doing anything, knowing that according to your own DBED report, construction is an economic supporter. So you have that 100 million that you're not spoken for, plus the other monies that are spoken for are not being spent. You got to get going. We have a housing shortage. No sense of urgency.
Another thing, the city and county is a partner of the TOD and the developments. That's their project, the real, so it should be a partnership as well.
Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Just to follow up to some of the comments, Mr. Minakami, do you guys have an infrastructure study project, along TOD corridor? Because I'll tell you, there's a few parcels in the district I represent along Skyline that I feel like the state hasn't had a sense of urgency in looking to develop that out. And quite frankly, I feel the city and county of Honolulu in the latest years have done a concerted effort to buy up property and create housing units. So I don't think we should be behind the 8 ball. I think this needs to be a priority as we look at housing.
Okay, thank you, Senator.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, especially if you want additional resources. Okay, what's the next one?
See. The next one, Chair, is the ceiling for the stadium. And I know you guys have been supportive.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen. So until we can actually see what we talked about, there's still no point of the spear. We haven't been presented yet with a plan to say who's really in charge. And then how all the different departments are organized or contracted to assist. So when you guys can, that can be at a later time. You don't have to get in because it's going to probably be a longer meeting.
We understand that, but the the layout of the organizational chart and the structure has just been completed, so we will come to you and share that plan with you. It's been circulated to the governor's office with Will Kane, the chairs, the stadium authority, and the chairs of the stadium authority as well. So we will circulate that to you. And if I may, Chair, I will say that I don't try to micromanage the HTA, but I can tell you this, between the House and the Senate, there's only one organization or one department that they ask questions about to me, which is HTA. And privately, you can ask any one of them, whether it's CNHA, HVCB or HTA. I don't micromanage them. Do I meet with them? Often, but I don't micromanage them. And with HHFDC, the governor's special assistant to housing is on it, the budget and finance director is on it, and OPSD is on
Yeah.
it. So I've
But
chosen.
they're administratively attached to you though, not the other. not the
I
other.
understand that, and you're absolutely right about that, but
Yeah.
I have to make choices with our time, and I will tell you that I get the most questions are about HTA and the convention center, which you can understand. But thank you for letting me.
Yeah.
Say my piece.
No, I don't micromanage either. I just have meetings, just like you. All I do is have meetings.
Just like this.
Okay, so that's your definition, that's my definition.
Touche.
Chair, can I ask
Okay,
a
yeah,
question with
people-
regards, the same, table 6 with regards to the stadium? So this particular position and the allocation, is that contract only we're talking about the stadium, but not the additional plans, the future for the housing surrounding the areas? It's kind of confusing because in our previous discussions, it seems like we're talking about the stadium and we all also have been talking about the housing portion.
Yes. So let me just say that when DBED was given the money, the $350 million to develop a stadium, we weren't given the resources. We were fortunate that Brandon Morioka, who is an engineer and was the chair of the board, was there at the time. Because if not, we would be way, way, way behind.
Discussions, what I'm saying is that to me, the stadium has been most important, I think, to people and not the housing portion. And as far as I'm concerned, I think we really should look at questioning why we're developing so many housing projects. To me, I think we defeated ourselves when we dropped the seating arrangement down to 23,000 seats or something like that to that effect.
Yeah.
And people are waiting for the
No,
stadium.
but part of the thing is, if you're gonna redo infrastructure, you might as well redoing it for something comprehensive.
Where everything
Versus like you're
has-
gonna go into the stadium and then later on you're gonna dig everything back for housing. So you have to plan it simultaneously.
Well, the question is, it seems like in our previous discussions, Chair.
They still don't know what the sewer capacity is.
Top of that, we're not even settled on the housing portion.
Well,
Do we
you
have?
can't tell the housing component, you can't tell what it is until we get the infrastructure capacity, which we haven't received yet.
Am I understanding we're already demolishing the stadium?
Yes.
So what's the next phase right after that?
That's why it's important to have a point of the spear,
Exactly.
because there's too many people involved, too many different departments, it's,
And we appreciate your meetings with us to help
Sure.
develop the path. I'm serious.
yes, we don't micromanage, we just have meetings.
Well, truthfully, in Hawaii, I think we're more sports educated and want our stadium,
I think you're both right.
not only
Everybody,
sports.
there's
but-
everybody who wants the stadium, and there's certainly the
Sorry.
governor and this committee that want housing, and the housing chair want housing too. So,
Send concerts, you can make your money,
yes.
Or 25,000 seat.
not
Can we
that
find
small.
from, since we're talking about the development and what Senator De La Cruz is saying, can we find out from the city, about the sewer capacity of what Senator De La Cruz is saying?
Yeah.
So do we know, because we're talking about housing and infrastructure. So how are we gonna plan it if we don't even have the information from the city saying that we can do 3,000 homes, 4,000 homes? Do we have that?
Yes, we do. I don't have it with me right now. I'm not sure if you have it, Mike. Okay. Yeah, so, and we want to introduce Mike Yadao, who is formerly a stadium
Yeah.
authority member, which is now the Deputy Director of Stadium Operations.
No, thank you so much, Director, and thank you, Senator, for that question. We've literally, before coming into this meeting, walked out of some meetings with the Board of Water Supply and some of our city counterparts, and they're mocking up what that would look like for a 4,500 home development. And so we're working backwards from, we've given them the target numbers, and they're giving us numbers on water capacity and then sewage and what kind of infrastructure we need specifically. So we are working with our city counterparts, and those are ongoing.
And then we gave a round number, you gave them a number?
We gave them a number. We gave them that 4,500 homes with mixed use retail and the rest. And now they're working backwards to make sure that they have that capacity.
Thank you.
They even asked questions, just for your information, Senator, on ensuring that that those homes were in full capacity and not investment properties, because that's changes some of their models. And so it was a pretty in-depth, and we expect to see some results in the next couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Great.
On the CP, shall we?
Yeah, but you have a question on which part?
Just to follow this up.
Oh,
Okay.
Yes, Senator.
Thanks. Are you guys open? It's sort of collectively, everybody's been kind of funneling through the table here for the last 5 minutes on TOD stuff and as well as the special districts. Are you guys available in the next couple of weeks for deeper in-depth informational briefing, just to kind of get in the weeds on a lot of this? Because I think to the chair's point, there's an opportunity this session. If we're not asked what the needs are and for help to fill those needs, right? You're just going to keep spinning your wheels with what you have. I don't mean to single you out. I just mean collectively, kind of in general, amongst all the agencies, departments and everything. So if we can get to the bottom of kind of where things are at right now, then we can better help figure out, right? How do we leverage the dollars we have? How do we implement the new strategies to really stretch those dollars? Best practices elsewhere, which often I think are not present in Hawaii yet, and really get into the weeds. So we can, I think with the other chairs, set up some of those conversations.
I think to answer that question, Senator, the short answer is yes. Absolutely open, absolutely willing to have those kind of discussions in a public forum. There are obviously some things that are currently still under negotiation with the development of the master development agreement and the ground lease that I can't speak to specifics because we're negotiating them with Aloha Halava development partners, but we're hoping to wrap that up in that early February time period. So yes, and I think to Chair Dela Cruz's comments earlier, we deeply appreciate that the project has been kind of muddied by not knowing necessarily who the tip of the spear was and allowing for service providers and consultants to be too involved in the decision-making process. And we are doing our absolute best at the Stadium Authority to assert that we are absolutely the tip of the spear and the sole authority in charge of that 98.5 acre development. To that end, we're doing our absolute best on the consultancy side to trim some of our communications. We've had an overlay of consultants there that absolutely can be trimmed, as Aloha Halava Development Partners has their own communications firm, and we have in-house communications. We're also looking at trimming and have already started the process of trimming a lot of our legal fees with O'Melveny and OMM because we expect to be wrapped up with the negotiations in that February 1st time period. Or that should be past February 1st, we believe that we can continue with local counsel and not need that kind of support from a mainland legal consultant. So we're trying our absolute best in the short time I've been here to be responsive to that criticism, Senator. We feel it's fair, and we would like to assert our place as the authority much better than we have in the past.
I think we appreciate that. I just want to get the various agencies all lined up at the table to make sure that if there's going to be a lead and it's clear that everybody's on board with that and all the resources can be kind of planned accordingly. So we'll follow up.
Yes, Senator. And
there probably needs to be MOAs so that we know what each role is for the different departments, because we still haven't really gotten down to HCDA's role.
And we're happy to help clarify that.
And there are tools we can put in place to really provide additional authority, additional opportunities to be able to streamline some stuff or leverage resources from other departments to be able to do some of the things, basic infrastructure and stuff that would ultimately reduce costs on the housing side of the equation, which to my knowledge hasn't been looked at yet.
I deeply appreciate that, Senator, and we can move forward with a better description of kind of who's in what spot and who's advising how, ensuring that the Stadium Authority is the tip of the spear and leading the development. We know that in order to ask for that ceiling to be removed in the 49.5, that we have to demonstrate that we've been good stewards of the money that we have thus far and that we have systems in place to ensure that. And so we appreciate your support and your willingness to have the discussion.
Senator Wakai.
Thanks. Stadium, I mean, the state is lucky to have you in your capacity there, Mike.
Thank you, Senator.
I have a question in follow-up to Senator Favela's question. Instead of having the Board of Water Supply talk about, can you meet the 4,500 number housing allowance? Maybe you should have a broader discussion and just ask the Board of Water Supply, what is total capacity for this area? Because there are some who believe that it should be north of 40,500. So if you can kind of like, here's the maximum allowed, then we can dispel some other people's beliefs that there can be north of 10,000 units there. So instead of just saying, can you meet 4,500, ask what the capacity is. And then we on a policy level can adjust accordingly with our discussions.
Absolutely, Senator. I take that as a friendly reminder that rather than limiting the numbers to be much more expansive in our view, and we can revisit that with Ernie, with the Board of Water Supply.
Yeah, but it's also supposed to be with environmental services.
Yes, and it will be.
Because there's probably less capacity for sewer than there is for water.
You're
And
absolutely
that's
right.
where we
and
got to figure out this out, but
I-
it should have been figured out before we even put a dollar in, but
I fully receive that, Senator, and accept that criticism. I think what I want to assure you is that those conversations are now occurring and that we hope.
okay, well, they need to occur before we determine about the 49.
I fully understand that, and they will, Senator.
When we're talking about water, just to say that I was on Governor Ariyoshi's state policy plan that developed the Hawaii State Plan. And let me tell you, when we worked on the water plan, and this is now in the 70s, now Honolulu and the airport, that entire region, when we looked at water services for the regions of Oahu Island, the airport area was the lowest water table. And we were very concerned about that. And Governor was very concerned about that as well. Now, with the increase, and that's why for me, when we look at the additional housing for the stadium part, I have historical background because of the nature of the entire region of the airport, which included part of Kapalama all the way to Salt Lake area. So that's why for me, with the housing increase, to me, I think we should be really concerned, and that getting the information from Board of Water Supply, and don't forget now, the one responsible for those functional plans, which is 12, is with CPH, with Mary Alice's. They're redoing the state plan. So it's kind of important that we get that taken care of and address how we're servicing the water area and how much.
Okay,
are we
point
going-
taken.
Absolutely, Senator. Thank you.
Senator Hashimoto.
Thank you for that reminder, Senator.
Okay, so Mike, I guess what can you give us clarity on what do we expect by February 1st?
So by February 1st, knock on all the wood, that we anticipate having a fully negotiated master development agreement with Aloha Development
agreements.
Partners and I'm sorry,
Agreements.
agreements.
Because now you have it into 5
ground lease.
contracts versus
Yes.
1.
Yes, with, rental payments and ground lease and sublease and everything worked out.
So how confident are you that you're going to hit that deadline?
I am confident that we will have a majority of issues resolved by February 1st. Whether or not the legal work, the specifics of the language can be fully finalized by February 1st. I don't quite know yet. That may extend into March, but not past March.
Okay, so more realistically March then.
We are shooting for a February 1st end time on the contract set.
So now is taking accountability as a stadium authority. Who is stress testing the contract? Are you guys still, making sure that it's just the consultants? Or are you guys bringing yourselves trying to understand what's going on with the contract?
So we are absolutely involved and doing our best to understand the contracts. We have board members that have a wealth of experience there with Walter Damas, from Kamehameha and others that are also looking at the contracts. We're also making sure that we're maximizing the AG's capacity so that they're looking at the contracts and that we have local counsel. I think the most expensive piece on the legal side was the mainland counsel in O'Melveny, and that is the piece that we are looking at getting out of the pot, so to speak, as of Feb 1st.
So you guys are looking at all assumptions, because my understanding is when you take a look at some of the assumptions, it's you know, I think it's looking like it's too rosy, and I think the reality is might be hard to actually make work, but I don't know. I think that's what we rely on the stadium authority to make sure that you guys are actually knowing what we should be, you know, negotiating and what should be the actual reality based on figures. But that, you know, I think that was based on your contractor, right, who came up with those figures, but I don't know if anyone on the stadium authority is actually checking them.
Yes, and so we are questioning assumptions. We're really.
And it should be staff,
I
no,
apologize.
not
Yes,
just, not
yes,
board
not the
members. Yeah.
Not just board members. We absolutely have staff, and we have, you know, we're very blessed to be administratively attached to DBED, who also offers a tremendous amount of support, but we're doing our best.
Okay, and just moving on another topic, so we're still at 4,500 for the units then.
I'm sorry?
We're still at 4,500 on the number of houses.
You know, I do take Senator Wakai's counsel at asking the Board of Water Supply to be a little more expansive in their view, but the numbers that we've been quoting to the Board of Water Supply and others have been 4,500 thus far. But we are absolutely open to bigger and broader discussions.
Best.
Senator, if I can add to when you talk about stress tests, I think we're very, very fortunate on the board to have the different expertise that are there, like Walter, land use, Brannan, engineering, Andrew, communications, and Eric, finance.
But they have to do it in a way that's certifiable, you know, because it just can't be as a board member, this is what I think.
Right.
I mean, I think what he's asking for is professional data that's going to allow us to make good decisions.
Correct. But my point to that is these board members that I talked about will be able to circulate the questions to whoever it is, attorneys and consultants, to do a stress test of what you're talking about.
Okay. It should.
So where's the university in all of this?
Well,
please.
the university, Matt attends all of the meetings. You know, it's our stadium, but they give input to the games and everything else. But as far as the development and the construction, they're not.
Why not? Because they're the only ones that really are doing P3s for the state that successfully.
I cannot answer for them, but I think that, you know, Matt's, I don't know if that's his expertise, and no one else, as far as I know, has been talking. Well, Brannan is UH, so, you know, Brannan.
But he's not developing for UH. Where's all the developers partners at UH?
I have to get back to you on that question, Senator.
But does the UH representative communicate with the president and the board of regents? Because at least it's not going to be in a vacuum.
Yes, Senator, the UH representative does communicate, and he has also solicited our current board chair, Eric Fujimoto, to help him.
You're copied on that? Or you're just
I
talking?
was previously when I sat on the board. I have yet to meet with him in the couple of weeks that I've been on the job, but I was previously, yes. And I know
That's not what I've been hearing, but
I know that Eric has had multiple meetings with different members of the Board of Regents with Matt.
no, I'm talking about a formal document that says, this is what happened at the last board meeting. This is what UH should be doing. This is how I mean, it should be, this is all like, we're making it up. Can we actually have something formal that we can document?
I apologize.
And have a paper trail?
We can do that. We can suggest that to Matt as a board member that he report in that capacity.
Why do you have to suggest it? That's his job.
Fair.
Excuse me, Deputy and Dane, let's go back to table 15 and look at the CIP program. My question that we didn't get to yet, I see $10 million for seawater pipeline removal, Hawai'i. Is that now, huh?
Yes, that is.
And why, now the development for that region, as we all know, was successful because of the seawater that's creating all those small businesses. Why are we removing, or are we replacing it and making improvements with new pipelines, which is greatly needed? So why are we removing the?
I understand this pipe is dilapidated, is no longer in use.
Part of it ended up in the ocean, and then
Well,
ended
it's
up in that.
aged, I
Yeah.
know, because we created NELHA at that time, years ago, back in, I think in the seventies. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that question. Laurence Simbardier, I'm the Deputy Director at NELHA, filling in for our Executive Director today.
Welcome.
Thank you. So the 10 million is for abandoned pipelines from a company that was called Ocean Farms from the 1980s, 1990s. And those pipelines are not in use. They were not the state's responsibility, but the company went bankrupt and left the pipelines in the water, and we have since been dealing with this.
Okay, but it's not the pipelines that are currently serving those businesses there.
That is correct.
Okay, so.
Those are still
I'm
functional.
familiar with that water system. Okay, so now the $10 million is to hire then these new business, the contractors to do the removals.
That is correct. And maybe I'll introduce here Dr. Alex Leonard, who can provide some details.
Thanks. Aloha.
Aloha, Senator. Yes, so about three years ago, the legislature appropriated money to allow us to survey the
Right.
location of the buried pipe of the defunct pipelines, and to develop a series of recommendations and plans for their eventual disposition to mitigate the risk posed to the public and to the environment. That work has all been completed now. There are plans in place. Recommendation is that the pipes should be removed rather than abandoned
Sure.
in place, and that they should be removed fully as soon as possible before any more mishaps occur.
Okay.
So the plans are ready. The project, other than permitting review, is shovel ready, and we're ready to.
Well, it's been a while since it collapsed and, with age, I guess. But it's just a question. The next one, with regards to the $1.6 million for the park repairs and improvements for the hose park.
That's for Senator. That's for a variety of projects. We have some critical deferred maintenance that needs to be taken care of in order for us to continue our regular operations. So we have.
Is that infrastructure or?
Yeah, so it's items like roadway paving, security fencing around critical areas for public safety, and electrical infrastructure that's now NELHA was the current facilities at NELHA are over 40 years old, some of them. And so the electrical infrastructure is beyond its useful life, sitting in marine near the ocean where they do. Corrosion is a serious problem, and there's a lot of damage to the existing electrical infrastructure that needs to be
The
done.
Japan company that did the water bottling, whatever happened to that business, and is somebody taking over that facility?
Sure, you're probably referring to Koyo,
Yes.
USA. Koyo is still in operation, and as far as I know, they're not going anywhere. We did have a total of 5 desalination companies. Of those, only 2 are left, Koyo and another
So
one.
Koyo is still,
Koyo is in
I've been doing
operation.
well.
Define doing well.
Okay. All right, thank you, Chair.
Do you have reports on the economic impact that you make to the state?
Yes, we do. So about every 4 years since 2010, we've been hiring UH Hero to do third-party reporting on economic impact to the state. The last one was in calendar year 2022, and the impact there was 147 million to the state economy. To the state itself, from GET tax and income tax from the businesses, that adds up to 7 million in that calendar year 2022.
Okay. Because, if our budget is about, at least general funds, 15 billion, and you're only bringing in 100 million. So you guys, to me, are really underperforming. You have to be a lot more proactive. We've talked about diversifying our economy, and I really haven't got that sense of, I don't know, promise or the ability to really take control of of what you guys are doing now, diversify it so that it can have a much higher economic impact? And do you have a goal to say, oh, our economic impact, we want to reach 500 million? I mean,
So
what do you-
before I
if not, you
respond
guys
to
are just
that,
doing same old, same old.
Mhm. So we are a self-sustaining agency.
No, that's not the point.
All of our,
I asked the question, what, do you have a goal of what economic impact you're trying to reach? You know,
We
like 500 million, a million, whatever the case may be.
we don't have a goal currently, but we are in the process of going through a master planning effort that will update our economic projections for what the park will be providing.
Yeah.
But I don't have that number for you right now.
Well, just to add here, because I've been involved with NALHI at the outset back in the 70s. Now there's a problem because the goal, like, let's look at that abalone company. They were doing so well.
We're talking about ag. See, their statute is way bigger than ag and they haven't done
Didn't
anything.
even help them to survive because they were doing so well. And then later on, there were all these issues about the lease.
It's natural energy laboratory.
You know?
Natural energy, it's not supposed to be an ag park. Natural energy laboratory. So you guys are supposed to be doing a lot more with tech and energy, but
But
that's
there
not
were
the
the
case.
businesses that were there and no longer there. So that's
Yeah,
just
so just a note then to the director, if you can have each of your agencies, since you like to have meetings with them, to make sure that they all have goals. Because they need a goal of what kind of economic impact they want to make so that they can be a lot more aggressive in some of these projects. But a lot of the agencies now are just doing the same old, coming before us, and they're saying, oh, well, we're self-sustainable, so you don't need to touch us. But they were created to diversify our economy. And some of them are majorly underperforming.
So just like jump back real quick. So you know that seawater pipeline removal. So when you guys bring in these companies into there, don't you guys have like on contract that you put the stuff up that they gotta put money down for the removal? It's kind of like what we dealt with the telescopes. You guys try to incorporate that in some of your contract instead of they putting it on the backs of the taxpayers.
Correct.
Cost of
So
this.
we do have a clause in the sublease that requires a performance bond. That performance bond, though, really just covers lease rent for, call it, a year. So we don't have currently a performance bond, which is, I think, what you're suggesting would make a lot of sense for those companies that put in infrastructure that has the potential of being left into the lap of the state. We don't currently have that.
So I think you guys should
Mhm.
start considering that. 'Cause,
Absolutely.
I mean, they should be putting up their fair share. They are receiving revenue while the state is having to clean up a lot of the mess that is left behind. So can you guys do that?
Yeah, absolutely. This
Thank
is the very first company. It was in the 80s, way before most of our times, collective times here. I think it was their first commercial venture of the state, and it went bankrupt. And so that's the challenge. When the companies go bankrupt, it's hard to recoup.
What are you doing before they go bankrupt?
Yes, yes.
Senator Kim?
You go into different tables?
Yeah.
I have a question on table 15, but not
Oh, go
related
ahead.
to this.
Oh, okay, why don't we go CIP
Yeah,
first?
real quick. Table 15, this is convention center. The 81 million you have appropriated. So that's all, is that all for the roof? I know there was a previous lapse, right, from a previous appropriation. Is that all the money you need for the roof, and what other improvements are you making at the convention center?
Terry. We're gonna call up Terry Orton, who's the general manager of the convention center. And Talon Kishi, who's the interim finance VP.
One person can sit on that side.
And I don't know if this question was asked earlier, but I think it would be helpful to know timeline wise of when convention center will be temporarily closed during the roof repaving project and when it will be sort of reopened.
Terry has all of that information.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm sorry, I missed the question. Could you repeat that again? Sorry about
Pay
that.
attention. You guys are all sitting over here. Pay attention.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so the 81 million that you have projected in two different sources of funds on table 15 for Hawaii Convention Center improvements, what type of improvements do those cover? Does that cover the roof replacement? Because previous funds were lapsed, I believe. And then what is the timeline for repairing the roof and how will that impact operations and coming back online?
Aloha, good morning. Senator De La Cruz, Senator DeCoy, members of the WAM-EDT committee. My name is Talon Kishi, Acting VP of Finance. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you folks. So the $81 million request, that's primarily for just other repair and maintenance projects, not related to the rooftop terrace deck project. But just to clarify HTA's request, I am reducing the $60 million CIP request down to $34 million. So altogether, we're asking for $55 million for.
Could you provide a breakdown to the chair and the committee of what those projects are?
Sure, we can do that for you.
So yeah, I don't understand that. So who approved the 60?
The administration did.
Oh, so the board had nothing to do with the 60?
No.
So that's the process now. The board doesn't have any input on the CIP requests.
As of right now, I didn't, no.
Okay.
No.
And then the reduction, who approved that?
That was HTA leadership with council with HCC management. So I can explain the reasoning for the reduction. So the main concern I had was having enough money for both the terrace deck project and then our other repair and maintenance projects for the convention center. And the other repair and maintenance projects are my estimate was based off of the 6-year CIP plan. So we have a 6-year plan for the convention center, long list of projects. It goes out 6 years. So I was trying to secure what I thought was enough funding for that 6-year plan for the next 2 years, 27 and 28. But after speaking with Terry Orton, she said that, Talon, you know what, let's lower the request down. Let's be a little more conservative. And let's give them a list of projects that we feel we can be confident in completing by November 2027. And we could always come back to you folks for more money if we need the additional support. So I agree. I think that was a much better plan than sitting on top of some money. We would never want to do that. So that's why we're going in with the $55 million request.
Okay, so that was just internal. There was no public discussion on any of that.
Follow up. So at the last meeting we had at the convention center, you folks said that originally the cost was 51 million, right? To do the roof.
It was 51 million based on the 1-year project.
Right.
The original budget at 64 million, correct?
Okay, but you folks budgeted, you ended up putting 64 million, right?
Correct.
Okay, and now the costs have gone up to
87 million is the construction costs compared at 2 years compared to the 1-year budget at 51 million.
okay, and when I heard that, it made sense, but when I looked into it, found out that actually the estimate was done that whether it took 1 year or 2 years, that it still would have cost approximately 51 to 64 million because it was padded a little bit for any kind of over. So I'm not sure where that additional monies is needed. I know you folks mentioned something structural, but my understanding is in that original bid, they considered all the structural.
So I guess maybe let me explain it to everyone who didn't see our presentation on the last time I met with you. So originally we went out with the invitation for bid with the original budget at 51 million for construction cost only. That original estimate at 51 million was Isaac Choi at the time, who was at Hawaii Tourism Authority and running point on this project, used the 75% construction documents estimate when he went out for his invitation for a bid, not at 100% CDs, but 75% construction documents. So it wasn't 100% done. He went out with that,
both of the contractors, we had 4 bidders, 2 dropped out, 2 submitted. Both of those bidders came back and said that this was not a 1-year project, it's a 2-year project. They weren't required to give us a dollar amount. They were just required to give us timeline and whether they could do this repair. So immediately after finding out that it was a 2-year project, we had already started to displace business at the convention center, anticipating that this project was going to take 1 year. So we started to move business off the books for 26, local and citywides. We moved 6 citywides for 26, and obviously, a bunch of local business. Then Isaac went out, rescinded the invitation for bid, went out with an RFP, which would allow us to then baffle this project. And he used the same budget amount as the 1 year at the 75% CDs, because in order for him to go out with the solicitation, he needed to ensure that he had 100% of the funds. And the only funds that we had was the 51 million, which was within the $64 million budget. So he went out with that same budget, knowing that the project was going to be 2 years. He even extended the timeline on the RFP. And that was to keep this solicitation moving. And my assumption, and this is an assumption, was that he was going to do exactly what we were doing now, which is utilizing existing funds that he already knew that we had to shore up the difference. Because anyone would know that a 1-year project to a 2-year project is not going to stand on the same budget.
Okay,
But
when I talked with him,
Mhm.
and I did after our meeting,
Mhm.
he said that this is the amount that's up to 64 million. This is the amount that he was given for the entire project. He didn't say it was 75%. And he said that it shouldn't cost any different. I mean, sure, there might be some inflation and stuff, but the project is the project, whether it takes 1 year or 2 years.
I
To fix
disagree.
my bathroom,
Yeah.
whether they take 6 months or a year, they give me an estimate what the cost of the bathroom is going to be. I mean, I'm giving you a simple thing. So they draw it out over 2 years, that's their situation. But it didn't change, the pipes got to be changed. It didn't change, they got to put the tile. It didn't change all of that. Structurally, because I think you mentioned structure, he said that was all in the whole overall review, and it was all taken into consideration. And so he cannot understand why it's now 87 million.
I agree and disagree. One, the scope of the project did not change.
Right.
What was in the 1 year went in the 2 year. The only thing that changed was the timeline. And anyone knows labor costs for a 1-year project moving to a 2-year project is not going to stay the same.
Okay, so do you have that breakdown for us? How the exact amount that made the
Yes.
costs go up?
And so during the time that we went from rescinding the invitation for bid and RFP, Isaac had asked our architect, can you take the construction documents to 100% so we have a more accurate budget? The contractor said it was going to take 3 to 4 months to do that. We didn't have 3 to 4 months because we had already displaced business. The goal was to get this project starting January 1. So he moved forward with the RFP at 75% construction documents and decided not to hit the pause button, wait 4 months till we got 100% construction documents, because he knew that he was going to not have the money.
Okay, well, apparently he's not saying that, so
Yeah.
I want you to know that you keep saying Isaac did this, Isaac did that.
Oh, I'm not blaming Isaac.
No,
I think
I
it
know,
was,
but from what he told me was that that number was a solid number, and he doesn't understand how is that 87 million, other than the extension. Yeah, so I'm
Well,
just sharing that with you.
I can share with you,
So
Isaac.
maybe you should talk. to
That
him.
is,
Yeah,
that is not correct.
Yeah.
Because
but then you shouldn't be quoting him. Then if he's not-
I'm just stating facts. Facts when Isaac was here and facts to what took place when Isaac was here and the course of, the process to which got us here today. That's facts. I'm not making anything,
So
I'm not pointing blame.
75% according to him wasn't, so I'm just saying, and you're saying that as a fact, so. I'm just holding
Yeah,
you guys
no,
accountable
I
for what you're
understand.
saying, because this is a lot of money increase.
I agree.
Go ahead.
Isn't it true, though, that you had 3 estimates from some of the consultants that you now have on board that said that it would be 51 million, but we gave you 64 million for the roof project?
We have estimates from our original quote
Yeah.
This is before we went out with the invitation for bid.
So it's
At
just an
one-
estimate of how much it would cost.
Correct.
So if
And
you have that, can
roughly
you
about
share that
3
with us as
Sure,
well?
absolutely.
Because it's three estimates that were all about the same, and now you're coming in with a much higher amount. And I don't know why fixing the roof is going to cost that much. And we have other, as Chair says, we have a lot of other
No, we have
requests
three
for funding, and we want to be sure that we keep going on what we need to have done. So if you will, please send that in.
So I just want to understand that the information you're requesting from me
The
is
three
what
estimates that you
So
had.
we don't
prior.
have 3 estimates. We had 1 estimate
I
from the
think you had
architect.
3 estimates when you were first coming up with the cost of the roof repair.
We had a estimate from our architect who did all the research, did all the
Based on what-
design,
But
and that was the
Mr. Choi
estimate.
said you had 3 estimates, so I'm just asking for the information that you had on
Okay.
which you.
I'm not aware of the other 2. I only am aware of the.
Send us what you had prior
Will
to. Thank you.
Okay, that's not to mention the fact that you guys lapsed about 14 million too.
Sorry, go ahead.
So that $15 million was appropriated to HTA prior getting the $64 million, and that was originally intended for temporary repairs. But of course, when Isaac came on board, he saw the 15 mil, he said temporary, let's not do that, let's go for the $64 million. So eventually the legislature did support us with the $64 million. And so we were trying not to let that money lapse. So we wanted to redirect that money to other roof-related projects. So I believe we submitted either a memo or some type of request to Budget and Finance to make sure that we could do that reallocation to other roof-related projects. But after they reviewed our request, they decided that it would not be okay based off how the law was written, because that 15 million was for the terrace rooftop deck specifically, but we were trying to use that money for like other roof-related projects, like the ballroom gutter. There were other.
So why not
roof
just use the
projects that-
15 million for the portion that it was supposed to be for, and then the 51 for the rest?
Well, that wasn't our understanding. Because we got 15 million and then 64 on top of that.
Yeah, but now look, you're still asking for more.
But then once we submitted that request to reallocate that money to other roof projects, the administration.
No, what I'm saying is that why not spend the 15 million on the portion that you wanted to, originally asked for, and then the monies you got subsequent to everything around that?
Oh, sorry about that. So I think it was more of a matter of timing, because at the time when we needed to utilize that $15 million, we were still in the very early like planning stages. Like we just got the project management consultant on board. We just got the design team on board. So we weren't ready to utilize the full 15 million.
I don't necessarily like when that happens, because, you know, a lot of members, we try to make sure we can prioritize the administration's request and the department's request. And then we want to take care of member requests. So by filling up the 15 million and then not spending it, you took from the administration and member requests of that year.
We understand and we apologize.
The intent was to use that money for a temporary repair, which we weren't going to do.
Yeah, so you didn't want to come in for a language change then? So you could have spent it at the time?
Yeah.
Have done that.
And at that time, who was in charge? And at that time, who was in charge?
So I was working with Isaac.
Didn't you ask for 36 million for other repairs? And what happened to that? You had
So,
36 million in addition to the 64 million for repairs, like the escalator and things that you needed inside the building. What happened about that?
So the original project list that Isaac had submitted with the request for the 36.4 million, we identified key projects on that list that we really needed to get done. Escalators was one of them. There were other projects that we had to reprioritize to reallocate that 36 million to the rooftop project.
No,
So
that's strange to me, right? So it talks, the money's for the escalator, yet the language is not flexible enough for temporary. You see, you can move escalator money to roof, but then the language for the roof is not flexible enough for the roof.
Well, the letter that I was given that was signed by the governor and by HTA did have language in there that this project, the projects that were listed for use of that 36.4 million was subject to change or could change. So that is why we changed the projects out and reprioritized it.
Changed by who?
By you.
It just stated in the letter.
Do you have that in this PowerPoint? Oh,
and
Okay,
I
maybe you
share
can
that.
send
It
that
would
to
have,
us.
it
yeah.
would have gone through budget and finance, but I don't think I don't think it was said, but the 15 million has already lapsed.
No, I know, but I'm just saying the same technique that you use to transfer the escalator money for the roof, why didn't you use that same technique in this case?
Yeah, and I cannot answer for the
But this one
situation,
has more direct nexus.
but I can just tell you that, you know, what he was trying to do was not to take money that you guys gave the $61 million and he wasn't going to try to cockroach the 15 million on the back. And now, because everything has gone up, it's a whole different scenario than when he was here.
Could you, the second part of my question, can you provide us a timeline?
For the project?
Yes,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Senator Kim.
Can we move on to
Yeah.
the next? Okay, we're done with Convention Center. Okay, can we start the easy one? I have a number of tables. Table 13 over.
Thank you.
Oh, you know what, before we go on real quick. So I had the staff pull the unencumbered cash balance of HHFDC. So you guys turned this in back in September for this current legislature. And so for DERF, you have about 350 million unencumbered cash balance. So that's according to your guys' tables. This is not 100 million. And then for rental housing trust fund, unencumbered cash balance is almost 500 million, 496 million. So this is just September. I'm not sure if you actually got, you said 100, so that means you got out 150 million in just a couple of months. But we can give you the documents, but this is what you guys submitted to us. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so on overtime, table 13, the very last one, $80,000 in overtime for the spectator events and shows at a law stadium. Am I reading this correctly?
Anticipated for 27.
Okay, even then, overtime?
No, but that's weird. Why would you not deal with it before you anticipate 80 million in overtime or 80,000 in overtime?
Well, we do have a new stadium manager, so he'll be on it. I don't know why it's 80. Yeah, Abru. Yeah. Abru is the finance VP at the stadium.
I mean, you can pretty much hire somebody. For
Yeah,
$80,000.
yeah.
Thank you for the question. So our understanding is that 80,000 is from our BJ table. When we allocated our expenses, how the ceiling and allocation of each budget line items. So we did take that $80,000 for the overtime budget line items from our BJ table.
Okay, but real quick. So if you look at your base salary, 25 actual is 2,062,000, right? 26 estimated 2.1 million. And then you go to 27, base salary is now almost 4.8 million plus 80,000 in overtime. So you more than doubled your base, yet you still have 80,000 in overtime.
I apologize, those numbers are not correct.
Then why are you guys sending us numbers that are incorrect? What else is incorrect?
Yeah, maybe you should listen to the deputy.
Yeah, we'll figure out what happened.
Okay,
It's not correct.
Okay, next question.
Okay, next one is table 14, consultants. So a number of questions on that.
I need the
Okay, go ahead.
magnifying glass you gave me, Senator.
I used to have one over here.
Page 7 of contracts, table 14. There's a number of ones that I highlighted. You have $300,000 for the University of Hawaii to design, develop, and deliver interactive visualization to support the Hawaii State Energy Office in meetings, the statutory role.
I don't know.
Not sure what that is. I don't know why you need $200,000 to develop interactive visualization support.
We're calling up Mark Lick, the Energy Office.
Bless you.
Just quickly.
Yeah, thank you,
Number.
Senator. So the visualization is like geographical information systems where we're plotting land analysis, like the amount of land it takes to do renewable generation. And we're able to look and see visually how much land that would take up in places that are actually zoned or to be able to do that. So it gives people the
For what purpose?
well, to be able to better plan. So you can tell whether or not that's a realistic plan to be able to, put so much solar, takes so many acres. And you have to actually see whether or not you have adequate land mass to be able to do that where it's legal or
And
appropriate.
it's a 3-year project, 3-year project.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're doing that with the University of Hawaii.
The next one is a visitor departure and survey calendar. $2,647,000. $2 million to do a visitor departure survey calendar. And then further down, another $1 million domestic in-flight visitor basic characteristic survey. 1.3 million.
So Senator, these are multi-year contracts and it's not actually the calendar that it's the calendar years that is specified in the description. So sorry to, I'm not sure if it got cut off there, but
Operation and lead.
Man, you guys know how to pull the switches over here.
Do not use elevators.
Okay, we got to recess. Okay, reconvene.
Okay, I understand calendar years, but visitor departure survey, domestic in-flight visitor basic characteristic survey. I mean, I can see us doing surveys, but the tune of 0.6 million, 1.3 million. It's a lot
So-
of money. I know it's over a couple of years, but.
yes, Senator. So so I'm going to address the departure surveys first. So those are in-person surveys that are done at the exit gates at the airports across the state. And this is the survey that we use for expenditures.
It's the elevators. Okay. You go on?
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, they said this. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
One
You
day-
guys got to stop touching the alarms, D-bed.
So because okay, so what I was saying is we need a significant number of surveys so that it's representative because we're tracking a lot of different markets.
Okay, recess. Okay, reconvene.
Okay, sorry, Senator Kim. So we need a significant number of expenditure surveys in order to calculate across the state and across the different markets. And it is a very labor intensive survey. We don't have enough staff in Reed for us to do this ourselves. So there is a significant number of people and they are surveying at every single airport. And it's just a lot of work.
They do it in person?
Yes, this is an in-person survey.
Okay, I have traveled a lot this year and last year.
Mhm.
I don't recall ever seeing any survey coming or going.
Okay.
People surveying anybody.
Well, so I'm sorry that you haven't seen them, but I will describe. They wear these red and black vests, and I've seen them at flights that I've been on, and they are instructed to serve, like, they're not gonna go to the same Japan Airlines flight every single day. They're gonna mix it up, some daytime, some nighttime, so that they can cover all the markets. But I know I've seen them there, and other people have told me, oh, I filled out your survey, Jen. I was like, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
So I'm sure you can have justification for everything. I'm just saying, you know, we have the electronic surveys now with the agriculture form. I'm not sure if you're looking at more economical ways to get the survey, but certainly I'm just saying that these kinds of costs raises red flags for me. And I'm not
Understood.
sure that department is really looking at ways to economize and to make sure that these things is meaningful, because I'm not sure what these surveys are doing. You haven't showed us anything to say, these are the surveys, this is the results, and this is what we've done. So I don't want you to answer, because I know we have time limits, but we need to see those things.
Okay, I do want to let you know that the second one you asked about the most domestic survey, that is actually a reduced cost because we did initialize the tourism, digital tourism survey. So we do expect that in future years that it'll be less.
So we went to, it's 1.3 and it was more than that? So
That-
you know what, put it in writing and just give it to committee.
That was the paper form.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, page,
I just want to know what surveys.
well, we're still on, contracts. Page 12 and 13.
Okay.
This is,
We can put in.
page 11, 58,800. The consultant will develop promotional website for ADC and ADC provide outreach relationships. You know, we do a lot of websites. We don't have anybody on staff that does this. We have to have a consultant. And then on the next page, on page 12, we have another consultant assists with ADC with applying for an NPDES permit. Consultant will also perform required field work and testing. So again, you know,
I can ask Wendy.
we rely a lot on consultants, so. And you know, this is just glancing through a number of pages of contracts.
Good afternoon, Senator.
Yes.
Chair, Vice Chair. Can I answer a specific question? Do you want me to go through each one of those?
No, I'm just saying, why are we relying upon consultants if we don't have anybody in-house to do these things?
In terms of the website, no, we do not currently have anybody that has those skills
The whole
in-house.
state of our government, we don't have anybody in DBED or anyplace else that does website construction? No, that's not something that, because if you add up all the consultant amount, you could actually hire somebody on staff to do it. For all the different entities that need it.
Thank you for that question, Senator. We will do a cost analysis for the 17 agencies and how much is spent and whether we can do that in-house or not, but right now we don't have the capacity to do that.
Well, those are the kind of things we need to look at. How do we economize? How do we make use of it? If we're having a number of agencies with websites and you all have websites, who's doing it? How much is it costing us? So I hope you folks look at these things because they do add up. Okay, the next one.
All the agencies give us that information, please.
Okay. Table 23, trips. Can you tell me how much money we've spent for the year on trips? And where is this funding? Does it come from the different budgets?
Oh, yes, it does. So we don't have an aggregate, Senator, but we will get our total of all of the travel for.
There's 21 pages of trips.
Mm.
And on a couple of the pages, we have like 64 lines of trips on 2 of the pages, but there's a significant amount of trips
I
and costs.
can guarantee you that the trips are less than they were before, but we will get an aggregate total for you.
So that makes me feel any better. But what is the total amount? Do you know what the total?
I
No, he said he'll get that to us.
Why don't we have that amount?
Give a lineup, have to aggregate and memorize it.
in each department.
Okay, so specifically on page 6 of this travel,
Page what?
page 6,
6.
there's a lot of energy, renewable energy specialists. The 12th annual Hawaii Energy Conference, $1,447. Another Hawaii Energy Conference, all on the same time from the month of May, $578. Hawaii Conference Energy, $533. We've got the next page. Energy Efficiency Specialist, $3,059. There's a lot of energy trips. On page 9, you have Energy Program Specialist, 1,400. The Energy Analytics Specialist, 2,157. Energy Program Manager, 710. Another Energy Resilience, 1,447. You got another Transportation Energy Specialist, 500. And the interesting thing about this is when I went to your vacancies, some of these people aren't even there. This isn't even filled the position. I compared the position number. So on table 12, you go to table 12. So on table 12, page 1, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have 11 energy specialists or positions. Okay, 5 of them are vacant. And the transportation energy specialist, 124021, it's not filled, as well as the 125010, not filled, according to this. And yet you have them listed as taking these trips. Because you have the position number. Did they leave since they took the trip, or what happened? And these trips were done in 5/21/2025, so of May. And they all went to the same conference, it seems.
Thank you, Senator. Mark Lick, Chief Energy Officer. Those positions are federally funded, and the ones that you just mentioned, we have 100% of our general funded positions, 26 positions are filled. So the ones that are vacant have been either replaced or the federal funding ceased, and so they're vacant. So we now have 9 vacant positions. But when they were filled, they were performing duties, and the funding for those particular travel were federally funded.
Okay, I'm looking at table 12, page 1.
Right.
And I'm looking at, there's your transportation energy specialist. It says filled, no. So that position is vacant.
Right.
And I don't know how long it's been vacant. How long has it been vacant?
I'll have to check and see exactly when that became vacant, sometime earlier in the year, last year.
Because if you look at your trips, that person, that same number, a position number 125,011, 125,011. Took that trip. I'm sorry. 125,010. 125,010, renewable energy specialist. It says filled, no. But they took that trip.
Again, because
They
the
took 2 trips. They took one on the top of the page on page
6 and one on the bottom page of that, the same position number. The 2 trips in the month of May.
Senator, I'll be happy to clarify that for you, but I'm fairly certain that those positions, again, because of the federal funding nature, we ended up swapping some positions where we had to move people into either general funded vacancies because those federal funded projects were under review.
Okay.
So I'll double check and I'll provide that to you, but at the time that travel occurred, they were filled.
Okay, so please know that when we ask you folks for this information and you give it to us, this is what we hold you accountable for, information that you sent to us. So I am looking at your numbers and I'm comparing it. And I have found over the many years that I've been here is that you folks don't think that we compare the tables, that I would compare the tables from last year to this year to see what's vacant, that I would compare the trip and whether that position was vacant or not. And it's not like I scoured through it. I just glanced through it and I noticed that there's a discrepancy. So again, this is what you folks submit to us. And so it worries me that if you're saying this information is wrong, then what other information that you're giving us is wrong? And this is not the first area or first department that's telling me that information isn't correct.
Senator, I didn't say the information was wrong. I said,
I'm just saying that obviously that information that said the position is not filled and that the position took a trip, then you guys need to be more clear that
it's currently vacant. But when somebody took the trip, it was not vacant. So I will clarify the timing of that so that you'll be clear on that.
right,
And I'm sorry we didn't explain that more thoroughly.
because that trip took place in May of this year. So it's not like it's 2 years old, right? I mean, it's like
Right.
6 months.
As you know, Senator, there have been a lot of disruptions since January of 2025 in the administration. Again, this federal funded positions, all of our positions came under review for federally funded positions.
Yes, but then they had time, you could spend the money for travel on these positions. And if you had any idea that those positions were going to not be filled, then why would you send someone on a trip that they're not going to be here long term? I mean, not that you would know that, but you would have some idea, right? It's like, I'm sorry, I just feel that government money is being spent without really looking at, do we really need this? Do we really need to send 8 people to this energy conference? So
The Hawaii Energy Conference is the annual energy conference for the state. And we gave accountability of what we were doing there. We had numerous speakers, including myself. So they were actively involved, and they were also actively involved in the presentations. We had a booth and they were manning the booth, and we had visualization and so on. So they were performing work.
okay, I'm just hoping that the position was filled when they were performing.
Most certainly was filled when that happened,
Okay,
Senator.
thank you.
You're welcome.
So those trips that your staff takes, what kind of outcomes or new projects or things occur as a result of those
positions?
No, of those trips.
All those trips. Well, in the case of the energy conference, and we're happy to relook at that. That is more of an accountability where we're expected to explain what we're doing.
I'm talking about some of the other ones.
So the other ones are extremely important. So if we have, especially the ones that I've been associated with, but we also have branch managers that are responsible for like our advanced assistance money with FEMA. And so they'll get a briefing on what's the applicable use of that funding or what's the availability of it. Or they may also have an opportunity to talk to FEMA officials to make sure that the next level of funding for Maui, Kauai, and Hawaii Island, which we were able to secure last year.
So it's only to learn about how to disperse funds.
Well, it does have a lot to do with the ability to either salvage that and be able to move it forward, because those have extremely important results for, that tells us how to be more resilient on those islands or how to prepare for the next wildfire.
Okay, well, we don't have we don't have an accounting, I guess, of where we are moving I guess incrementally to reach our energy goals. So somehow if you can tie in some of those conferences to new programs and new projects that are getting us to reach our energy goals, then at least we can see some kind of return.
Can I follow up on that too? Also, for the same conference, you have someone going there from 410 to 420 for $2,157. And then you have another person on the same conference from 422 to 423 for 710. So there seemed to be a discrepancy. And then you have for the Hawaii Energy Conference, again, the cost ranges. This is for a 1-day program specialist energy, $1,417 versus some of the others, which is 900 or 700. So can you put all of your energy stuff together and that all went to the same conference to see why there's such a big difference in the costs?
It certainly can. In some cases, if it's a 4 or 5 day conference, we won't authorize the employee to be there the full time. So they'll be there for certain days and we'll limit the amount of,
Yeah, but 10 days for one conference?
it wouldn't be 10 days
It
for,
says 410, again, this is the information you gave us, 410 to 420.
yeah, and I'll have to look at that particular line item, see what that's about.
Okay, so when you guys, please, when you send this stuff in, can you look through this to make sure that the information we're getting is correct?
Sure.
Thank you.
You had other tables.
No, that's good.
Done. Okay, any other questions?
Oh, yeah, I do. I'm sorry, one more.
Go ahead.
On page 21, table 23, the last items, what is this CRF EIN manager? Went to Auckland and Singapore and all that, $6,204.
That was our Food and Product Innovation Network Manager.
Sorry?
That was our Food and Product Innovation Network Manager. And we went with the state delegation, which included admin from DBED and House and Senate.
Is that the only person that went on that trip?
Myself and the FPIN manager attended that.
Person? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, adjourn.